Hi, welcome back to Ben Keenan Just Can't Stop Talking, the water cooler episode, aka the 10-ish minute news and culture show where you learn about literally everything that happened over the last 24 hours so that you're a little bit smarter about a lot of things. It is currently Wednesday, March 26th. It's nighttime, which is why it's dark, but also, I don't know if you're going to see a flash. We have a thunder and lightning storm outside, which is kind of crazy. So if you see my face light up, yes, it is happy and full of joy for you, but it is also deathly lightning. Do with that what you will. We had a much longer day of news today than we did yesterday. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump in. Country, or maybe pop technically, singer Maren Morris announced that her fourth studio album, Dreamsicle, will be released on May 9th. Donald Trump announced that he's looking to set up some sort of government compensation fund for the January 6th insurrectionists that he pardoned.
Is there any talk of, because they lost opportunity, they lost income, any kind of compensation fund?
Well, there's talk about that. We have a lot of people talk about it. A lot of the people that are in government now talk about it because a lot of the people in government really like that group of people. They were patriots as far as I was concerned. I talk about them a lot. They were treated very unfairly. You know, the thing they show is they show a group of 1,000, whatever it may have been, 1,500 people down. What they don't show, you never see the crowd that day. It was the biggest crowd I've ever spoken before. It went all the way to the Washington Monument. It was so wide, you virtually couldn't see anything else but people. They never show that. Whether it was 1 million people or less than 1 million, I don't know what it was. But, you know, I see Bernie Sanders has a few people out there. They say, oh, the crowd is so big. They don't talk about the crowds. But a group of people went down there peacefully and patriotically. Remember that.
Are these, dare I say, reparations? And the bigger question is, does this suddenly open the door for other people within this country, specifically minority groups, that may have been taken advantage of by the U.S. government, namely Native Americans and the descendants of slaves? ? That'll be interesting to see how that plays. So the overperformance of Democrats in special elections across the country continued last night, with Democrat James Malone winning a state Senate election in Pennsylvania, flipping a Republican seat in a district that Trump won by 15 points in November, meaning that this district moved 17 points to the left over the course of 5 months. Additionally, there was a New York City Council special election where the Democrat Simcha Felder won by nearly 82% of the vote over the Republican. Bear in mind, Trump won this heavily Orthodox Jewish council district with 83% of the vote in November. So once again, a massive swing, but now the Democrat won it with nearly the same number, making it a 160-point swing towards the Democrats. Do you see what I'm saying when I said people are starting to get tired of what's happening in the country? Is the pattern starting to emerge a little bit for you? FKA Twigs has announced that she is postponing several of her North American Eusexua tour dates due to visa issues, including stops in Chicago, Toronto, and New York. However, she will be back on the road in time for Coachella, where I will be seeing her possibly. Depends on what the group wants to do. I don't listen to her a ton, but she's fun. And if the group I'm going with are FKA Twigs fans, I'll go. So you know how Donald Trump put notable vaccine conspiracy theorist RFK Jr. in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services, which oversees vaccinations? And then you know how RFK Jr. swore that he isn't going to ban vaccinations countrywide, but instead just wants to study them, you know, the just asking questions of it all? Well, RFK Jr. hired vaccine skeptic David Geer to conduct the analysis of the correlation between vaccines and autism. Notably, according to the Washington Post, Geer and his father have published papers claiming that vaccines increase the risk of autism, which is a theory that has been studied and debunked scientifically for decades. There is no correlation here, and yet we're putting somebody in charge that just has questions about it and just wrote a couple papers with, you know, talking about the risk. There's no way that this person is going to be a little bit biased here, right? So after a couple of days of Republicans lying about the fact that the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, wasn't on a group chat where they were talking about bombing Yemen, then saying he actually was, but there wasn't any classified information, and then saying he actually snuck his way on, you know, all that. Well, Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor/reporter who was actually on the chain, officially released screenshots of the entire text thread, and y'all, heads will roll because of this. Don't listen to what they're saying now because the story is not going away, and I don't know when and I don't know how heads will roll, but they will. Lady Gaga announced that her tour for her new album Mayhem, called The Mayhem Ball, will be stopping in only 5 US cities: Vegas, Seattle, New York, Miami, and Chicago, then hitting Toronto in Canada and a bunch of European stops. Regarding the tour, she said, quote, "We chose arenas this time to give me the opportunity to control the details of the show in a way you simply can't in stadiums. And honestly, I can't wait. This show is designed to be the kind of theatrical and electrifying experience that brings mayhem to life exactly how I envision it." Between Beyonce and her Cowboy Carter tour and now Gaga and her Mayhem Ball tour, I'm wondering if this isn't going to be the new trend for really big artists, is doing a smaller cycle of big US cities and having everybody fly into those venues so that you can really control it for days at a time. Obviously, Taylor Swift being excluded from this conversation. In a surprise ruling, the Supreme Court upheld a Biden-era rule from the AFT, so the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, that regulated ghost guns under the Gun Control Act. This reverses the Fifth Circuit Court decision that said the ATF rule was invalid and that at least some of the build-at-home gun kits satisfy the language of the Gun Control Act. This is a surprising win. I will take it when I can get it. Influencer Remy Bader, known for her body positivity and realistic try-on hauls, got super skinny recently after a pretty bad breakup, and it left people being like, oh my God, what's going on? So rumors have been swirling about Ozempic since she had spoken out against those drugs in the past, but she got super skinty. So everyone's like, okay, something's happening. But she officially broke her silence today, revealing that she had bariatric surgery. In an interview with Self, she said, quote, "I loved being curvy my whole life. I just did. It was who I was. I will always believe that you could be a bigger size and be healthy and happy. But there was a point when it shifted and I became really unhappy." I just wish she had said something earlier before people kept asking the questions, came out with this very upfront, because people are going to notice that you went from being a plus size influencer to being, did you see that flash? We just lost power for a second. To being a skinny little lady on the internet was what I was going to say. Chappell Roan revealed on Call Her Daddy that she's dating somebody.
Wait, are you single?
No.
You're f***ing lying. No, you're lying. You're f***ing lying to me right now.
A Scooby-Doo live-action series is officially moving forward at Netflix, picking up the show for 8 episodes. While the cast from the movies was perfect, and we all know that, I fear that they're all too old now to actually partake in this live-action movie or show, series. Whatever it is, it's too many years later. But I will tell you this, I bet there will be more than one season because the Gen X and millennial audiences have such nostalgia for Scooby-Doo. There's no way that we're not going to all binge it on the first day. Renee Zellweger has joined the cast of Only Murders in the Building season 5, and I have no idea who the character will be because everything is super hush-hush on the internet. But quick spoiler, if you haven't seen season 4, skip forward 15 seconds because I have a theory about who it could be. So you know how at the end of season 4, the doorman was kind of, well, I wonder if she's not going to come and be like his daughter, because they're obviously going to have to do a funeral. And so she'll show up there and help them solve the murder. Duh. Former Impractical Jokers star Joe Gatto has canceled his tour and voluntarily begun inpatient care at a treatment facility following recent allegations against him of sexual assault and harassment. He said, quote, "Having taken some time to reflect, I've decided to voluntarily enter an inpatient program to continue working on myself. I just want to thank my friends, fans, and especially my family for all their support, never more so than over the past few days." Joe Jonas announced that he will release his new album, Music for People Who Believe in Love, on Friday, May 23rd. They're all really doing something, right? Like a bunch of different stuff. Joe's got a new solo album. Nick's on Broadway. Kevin is doing whatever a Kevin does. And then aren't they coming back and doing another Jonas Brothers thing? These boys are busy. Donald Trump announced new 25% tariffs on all cars not made in the US, which will definitely impact automakers who have parts that are made outside of the US, even if the car itself is assembled in the US. While I do not work in finance or investing, my recommendation to you is to not buy a car right now if you don't have to, because that would be a horrible investment. And finally, Kansas. Yes, the state of Kansas announced a measles outbreak with 10 reported cases at the moment. So And that's it. That's all the news for today. Thank you again for listening or watching, I guess, if you're on YouTube. I will be back tomorrow with more news, but if you can't wait until then, you can always find me on social media, both on YouTube and TikTok at I've Been Traveling, on Instagram and Threads at Ben Keenan. You can find me here on the podcast at Ben Keenan Just Can't Stop Talking on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So until tomorrow, have a good morning or evening, I guess, depending on when you're listening to this. Bye.